Hello and welcome to Partner Focus. I'm Kilian and joining me today is Chris Ebley from Blackwood. Chris, how's it going today?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. So Chris, first time on the show. Can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and about Blackwood?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Ebley. Operating title is Chief Technology Officer at Blackwood. Blackwood is a consulting firm. We're headquartered just in Annapolis, Maryland, right outside of DC, and specifically specializing in cybersecurity. So I represent a team of consultants that focus in three major areas within kind of the cybersecurity umbrella, which is going to be identity-based practices, data protection, and then finally, last is the security operations side of things, which is really kind of the last pillar that represents when the first two things didn't go right. And you need to actually fix for a problem that you now have to handle.
Oh, sounds pretty good and sounds pretty exciting. Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to jump right into it. Since you have such a deep background and a lot of experience here, I'm going to challenge you with some pretty tough questions. Because we're here to talk about data privacy, I want to dispel maybe some myths that maybe some of our viewers might have. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between data privacy versus data protection?
Yeah, sure. So we get this question a decent amount. Data privacy, if I were to kind of draw a line, so I guess first and foremost, I'll start on the side of there's distinct synergies, right? They have a substantial amount of overlap with dependencies on each other. Data privacy really gets into the how data is collected, the how data comes to be, right? If I'm an organization, I'm responsible for protecting something. It's like, well, how did that data get to be there? From the traditional user standpoint, you see this as part of your everyday lives. You're going to see this when you go to the doctor's office and you're signing HIPAA forms and they're telling you about this is the medical information we're going to collect about you and this is how we use that information, all the way through to when you're web browsing and you hop on a website and it sits there and says we use cookies to improve your improve your experience and this is what we do with that data, right? This is how we attribute that to you, and then here's how we kind of take that a step further and everything in between. But really the privacy factor, if I were to kind of differentiate, is getting into the what data is being collected, how is that being collected, and then what are the guarantees that exist behind that? So when you as a user sit there and say, okay, yes, I'm going to entrust you as an organization with my information, it's not in a Wild West kind of way. I'm not sitting there saying, yeah, just do with this what you will. There's an aspect of you're guaranteeing me that information is going to be kept secure and that you're not just going to just share that with the masses, and that's where the data protection side of that comes in, which is it's really the way that you're meeting those guarantees that you provided to your end users and to the people who are providing you the information that you're entrusted with securing.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I think that'll help a lot of people kind of understand that. And you touched on it, you kind of got into it just a little bit there, but can you talk a little bit about those synergies and what that symbiotic relationship is between the data privacy and data protection in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, of course. So you see, I'll start on if data privacy is providing me the what information, right? What is being provided to me? What is that information? And you see this in all types of different standards. You see this in CCPA and GDPR and HIPAA and other standards like big name compliance standards, as well as just individual user agreements that sit there and say when this information is provided, you are going to protect that. Well, when you think about that, and especially in the technology age and the connected age, you're now as an organization taking a look at from the technology side of things, sit there and say, okay, where are we storing this information? Is this in the cloud? Is this on-prem? Is this in a data center? Is this in multiple data centers? Are we backing that information up? And then how is that data accessed? Who physically has access to this to these systems from a software standpoint and access to the individual pieces of information? Like who has access to that? Do we share that with anyone else? And what are the controls and policies and technologies and enforcement capabilities that we leverage to make sure that what is applied to that information is adequate and appropriate so that you can continue to kind of enable the business experience and use of that data, and at the same time making sure that you're limiting to the best of your ability the risk that's associated with the exposure. So really, if I kind of to sum it up in a single line, if the data privacy represents the legal aspects of things, and the data protection represents the technology, it's the how you're meeting the guarantees of the privacy side of things.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That makes a lot of sense. And it really, I think, clears it up what the distinction is and kind of how they work together. So I guess my only final question is, and last but not least, can you talk a little bit about how Blackwood and Varonis come together to partner on data protection and data privacy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a conversation that I'm more than happy to have and near and dear to my heart. So from a standpoint of enabling our customers, and when we championing ideas. I like to use the term North Star. If you're going to take on an initiative, we have an idea. Blackwood has an idea of what we consider to be the best way to go about that.
Sure.
When you get into the idea of data protection and provisioning access to an environment, access to an individual piece of data, and everything that sits in between, one of the most consistently heard of kind of, it's not even a marketing term, but trends and missions that aligns with that from cybersecurity is the idea of zero trust. And so zero trust to me, to Blackwood, aligns with the idea of looking at, and from the perspective of an individual user, how an individual user is allowed or not allowed to access something. And you basically back things out from there. So if I'm sitting there saying I've collected this data and the following people within my organization need to have access to this to do their day job, but only under these set circumstances, and everyone else has no need to access this, that just becomes the standard. That's the template that I'm using to provide off of that. And so when we align with Varonis, we took a look at the technology, and it was amazing for being able to deliver on so many aspects of what makes this mission typically difficult to deliver on. People have a rough idea of what information exists and what is important, but really answering the questions of, okay, where is that data in your environment? Who has access to that? And most importantly, how do you know? How do you know right now that those controls are actually in place? So that's where Varonis really, that's what they launch off from. That is their starting line as a technology, being able to do discovery, especially within the systems that really matter, that are specifically tasked on a day-to-day basis with housing that information. To sit there and say, this is everywhere that exists within your environment that is tied to storing information. This is what information exists within those repositories. And then based on a permissions analysis, these are the people that have access to that. And that enables you as an organization to have definitive technological insight into what has been configured. And then you can sit there and take that a step forward to sit there and say, is this appropriate? Is this adequate? Are we meeting the guarantees that we've provided alongside the privacy terms and conditions that either the world has required that we adhere to, or that as an organization you've made in terms of promises and obligations to end users? And so as far as how we partner, we sit there and take a look at what is the big mission, which is making sure that the individual information is kept safe, that compliance standards are met, and that organizations are limiting risk to the best of their ability. And then we look at that from a technology standpoint and say that, like, really a Varonis, which is considered, from my perspective, best in breed in terms of being able to answer the what do I have to deal with in my environment, and then getting all the way through to, is this appropriate, and then enforcing off of that. So being able to answer those questions and provide that insight, and then provide you those kind of guidances to remediation and mitigation is phenomenal. And that's been kind of the base platform that we operate off of as we enable our customers.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And that was, I think, an insightful kind of look at how we partner together and have those kind of great synergies to help our customers. So thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today. I think this is really insightful. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully you found it enjoyable and insightful. Check us out again at some other point. Hopefully Chris will come and join us on another video, maybe in the future. So Chris, thank you, and I appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.